used to being successful, and you're used to being on your own, and driving your own things, and having your own success base in terms of, you know, I'm an independent woman. I don't need people to make me money, I make my own money. You know? If you're with me, it's not because you define me, it's because you compliment me. And the decision that I took is that my biggest mistake was giving up my independence. And based on that, I tried to move to Cape Town, didn't work. And one day, we had this beautiful house in Simon's Club, and I loved the ocean. And that year I'd gotten my skipper's ticket for boating. So I had my 2 little Malibu types parked in my front yard. And imagine this, I have tips, but I put rubber gloves to sand down my boats. Okay? And my little car in the garage that I take through Camps Bay, driving it, and you know, all of a sudden, it didn't feel good. I wasn't happy. I wasn't spending enough time with my kids because I was trying to run up to Joburg to try and get work. I spent 4 days at a time in Johannesburg, and I'd hear about my kids over the phone. My marriage was falling apart because I didn't have that success base anymore. Couldn't bring in the butter that I used to, you know? The boat started to fade, the car started to fade, and I couldn't keep up my share of the deal. And then I took a decision that I was tired of being unhappy. You know, you can have everything. And I heard this saying, you can have everything standing next to nothing. And that's what I was. I had everything, but I was standing next to nothing. And I didn't want the feeling anymore. So I decided I owe myself much more than that. And I decided to call it quits, and I moved up to Johannesburg again. I got enough out of my settlement just to make sure I could cover bills for 2 months. And kind of the few debts the bank were following me on, and trying to keep my cell phone alive on my billing as well. And I thought, hey, look at my CV. I'm a smart chick. Anybody's going to employ me. I mean, you know, sounds a bit arrogant, but you've got to believe in yourself. Because if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else is going to believe in you. So you've got to sell yourself to yourself first before you sell it to somebody else. And what I did was, I did that. I go into various recruitment companies, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get this. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, no answer. No offense to recruitment agents here. Everybody works in different places. And I tried going back to my network of people that I knew. There were no positions in those companies. It's a recession. You know, Sharen, it's hard times. Then you get the others where, you know, when you're in a corporate environment and you ever have the experience of leaving, the people that you know on the inside is very different. Your relationships are very different when you leave on the outside. You don't have the same level of pull. People say, we'll be there for you, we'll do this, we'll do that. Try when you get on the outside to get that. You feel it, yeah? Well, that's where I was. And at that point, I got tired. My soul was tired. And I remember my best friend, Patricia Story, and she passed away a few weeks ago. And the one thing she always used to tell me that when God closes one door, He opens another. And it's really great. But when you hear these things, 7 months down the line, you're unemployed. It's really frustrating. Yeah? And yes, you've got to have belief, and yes, you've got to have faith, and that's important. But you get tired, your soul gets tired. You know, and you think, you know, I think I'm being victimized by God here, and you and I need to have a chat group, because if you don't help me, I'm coming upstairs to talk to you. And my friend always used to laugh. He says, I regret the day you decided to join him up there. You're going to be starting your own consortium. I said, yes, I will. But coming back to it, is that Pat told me one thing. She told me the story about this guy that went on radio. And he was telling them that he was unemployed, and John Robbie put his CV on, and he got a job, a better package than what he expected. I said, great, but that worked as a marketing tactic for them. They benefited from that one thing. But it's not their primary objective of their business. So I joked with her and said, what do you want me to do? Go put up a billboard. So she tells me, you're crazy. I said, yeah, but I like crazy things. And since then, I wasn't able to sleep. I had this idea living in my head. Put up a billboard, put up a billboard, put up a billboard. I thought, you know what, this is quite sick. And I started consulting to a company. I was doing some work for them in Pretoria. They were paying me like $3 grand, you know, and every day to drive to Pretoria and drive back on a 2-liter car, it just covered my fuel, right? But the thing is, I started learning about the outdoor industry. So one day I went in and said, hey, I'm not a salesperson, I can't sell. I know I'm Indian, but I just can't sell. I can't sell. And the guy says, okay, sure, what do you want? I said, okay, no, but listen to this. You're competing with these big guys, Prime Media, Clear Channel. Now they've created something, and they're consorting to bunch all you smaller guys together. They try to manage you again, so that company becomes a larger company that you guys are consulting to. So technically, you're doing business to business. I said, but you know what? What about people like me and SMEs out there? have you ever tried tapping into the business to consumer market? Deal direct with these guys. Give them that 50% that these oaks are marking up. And he says, okay. I said, but you're going to give me a billboard for me to show you that this works. So he said, okay, fine, Sharen, you got it. And I was like, okay, I got a billboard, this is great. Now what do I do with it? I got no money to do it for the creative because it's cool having the spot, but you're going to pay for the material you get to put in there, right? Okay, and I don't want to put my phone number up there and have all these freaks phone me. I just want a job. That's it. But I mean, me can be misconstrued. So I thought, okay, no, great, what do I do now? So I sat down and I was consulting with Pat, and Pat was like, Pat's very strategic. She always gives strategic reasons. I always say she's probably sitting up with a board up there as well, you know? And she said, you know, you've got to think about how you do this show. She said, but then you get paid. And she jokes about this, you've got nothing to lose. I'm like, no, you're right. The bank believes the same thing you do. So I thought, okay, no problem. And I literally went out there and then I spoke to a few friends. Okay, then I thought, okay, no, I got to put this together. The trick is, I had 8 days because I get the billboard from the 15th. I managed to negotiate it on the 5th, and in between I had 2 weekends. So I had 8 days to get everything up and running, get the money for the creative, make sure it's a proper campaign, because I'm a marketing person. I do something slapdash that's going to reflect on my ability. They're going to say, oh, she can't even put a billboard, I can be employed. So in 8 days, and the man standing there for me was the man I approached to help me with my website. I said, you know what, this must be digital. Digital is the new marketing, right? Everything is digital. So I need to drive this via web. So my website really needs to be awesome. When they look at it, they're going to think, yeah, that's somebody I want to be associated with. Because I'm a brand, I'm building a brand, I'm Sharen Moodley. Right? I'm calling me the hire me girl and I'm Sharen Moodley. So I met Nick at this Nescafe, and I was so glad he paid for his coffee afterwards. He gave me 20 bucks. He didn't know I really needed that, right? I paid for the coffee, and he agreed the next day to sponsor my website. And he also agreed, by sponsoring is one thing, but he agreed that this website would be up and running in at least 5 working days, because we still have to test before we go live. That was great, I got a website. So my negotiations, I used the 2 basic rules in the book. Barter, and a man's word is his honor. I never do that in business. For me, everything is contracts, especially after you dealt with the Chinese. You put down contracts, right? But I tried to use the 2 things that was the basis of my character. And I secured Nick, and I bartered space with him. So I gave him his logo on everything that I did publicly in order for him to do my website. And I did the first brand association. Because nobody's ever done in this country a first marketing campaign to market yourself. I was prepared to put myself out there to see what would come back. I got tired waiting for the middlemen and not being able to get to the actual employers. I wasn't given that opportunity. For some reason, somewhere along the line, things would always happen and I wouldn't have that chance. And there was no legitimate reasoning for that. So I thought I'll market directly to them. And then I was like, okay, now I don't have the money to do the creative, to look at the website. So I picked up the phone to my ex-husband. Now I know this man, hey? He agrees to nothing unless there's a business proposition behind it. So I thought, let me find the business proposition. Give them what they want. Okay, told him, brand association, his company did exposure. He literally gave me money to do the creative. So Axitech came on board as a sponsor. And I was like, you know what, I hate pictures by the way. I believe I'm the most least photogenic person in the world. So I went out there and I worked with the guy from Microsoft, Craig Hall, and he sponsored my entire photo shoot. Then I had the girl who done my hair for many, many years. And I said, man, so many times are really hard for me. Would you mind sponsoring my hairstyles? She did my hair, so my hair looked really awesome. I had highlights and everything. And by the time I finished, I've got the website, I've got the creative, I've got literally the billboard space. But it was like, nothing goes, you need the PR behind it. You need the hype, you need the word of mouth. And I've spoken to somebody that let me down. And then I picked up the phone to Noreen Koske. Many years ago, I got involved in a project called Mission Antarctica. I'm a bit crazy, you know? And basically, I did this whole thing in the World Summit for Sustainable Development. So I spent 3 months buggering around in the ocean, camping on the islands of South Georgia, and don't ever tell anybody but eating seal and reindeer. I just had to taste it. And by the time I finished, I was famous and I was ambassador for the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund. But at the same time, Noreen Koske was a woman behind that project, and Noreen is a go-getter. So I need strong women like that and people on my team, people who drive things fast and get things done. Noreen came on board and she sponsored my PR.